If you're trying to attract your wife back or your long-term relationship lover, if you're facing an unwanted divorce or a separation, potentially forever, the way that you're going to get this woman back is to stop trying to get her back. That's exactly what doesn't work. Today, I'm going to go over 5 things that you can start doing right away that will give you some success in re-attracting your wife or your long-term relationship lover back. Let's get started.
You just got to be coachable.
Here's 5 things that you can start doing right away to align your actions with your goals, not your feelings, and they work. Please subscribe to this video. Press that bell button so as I put out new content, you'll be notified so the algorithm doesn't hide it from you. Guys, welcome to the channel. My name is Griffin, and I help men restore their relationship with their wife or their long-term relationship lover when she's not willing to work on the relationship. And we do it in a way that makes her want to come back into the relationship, and that's not only in your best interest, where you achieve the goals that you want to for your life, it's also going to be something that ends up being in her best interest and going to give her the best life ever also. Oftentimes when your long-term relationship lover wants a divorce or your wife wants out of the relationship or the marriage, she's going to go in and do some things that you're going to typically be emotionally reactive to. So is your long-term relationship lover or your wife doing any of the following things? Has she just told you that she wants a separation? Is she saying, I don't want the marriage anymore? I love you, but I'm not in love with you. Has she found an emotional or a physical affair partner and you think that there's no hope? You're like, I don't even know if I should work on this. So I've tried some things and they're not working. And so I'm not sure what to do. Anytime a woman has confirmation bias, she will usually almost always recruit other peoples that I call enemies of the marriage. This could be a family member, like a mother-in-law. This could be a sister, sister-in-law. This could be a friend. This could be a female or a male friend. She'll almost always at least have some type of an emotional affair with another man. She'll latch on to somebody else, like an old friend from high school or college or an old work partner, or it might even be somebody that she works with. But there's almost always going to at least be an emotional affair partner. Something else that she'll do, what I was just talking about, is recruit enemies of the marriage. And so what I mean by that is whenever she's trying to justify her reason to make herself look good for wanting to exit the relationship, especially if she has confirmation bias, she will recruit others to side with her, to enable her to exit the relationship, to exit the marriage, to feel good about her decisions, and to help her move into those decisions with more acceleration, to support her in her negative feelings. Typically, an enemy of the marriage that she'll recruit most always is going to be another miserable person. Typically, it's another female. Typically, this female has been in failed relationship after failed relationship after failed relationship. Or it's going to be a woman that is currently in a horrible relationship. She's unhappy in her relationship. Maybe she's cheating on her husband or her boyfriend. And maybe they're still together because she hasn't had the nerve to get out of the relationship. So what she's doing is she's a miserable woman herself. Misery loves misery. So she might latch on to your wife and support her and to enable her to exit the relationship or the marriage with you, because misery loves misery. This is what I call an enemy of the marriage. If your wife particular has confirmation bias, this is always going to happen. The other thing is if your wife has an emotional affair, sometimes that can be physical. Sometimes it can even be a limerent affair, meaning that she's in love with this man. And what the definition of limerence is, basically, she has an emotional or physical affair partner, and this guy is like 10x the worst version that you've ever been. He's 10 to 100 times worse. But if she has limerence, she can't see that. That's the definition of limerence. This is a symptom of a woman that's wanting to or has exited a relationship with her husband or her long-term relationship partner when she has confirmation bias. This is very normal. If any of these things have happened to you, the normal emotional response when this happens to a man is almost always 99% of men respond with emotional immaturity, acting like you're a 3-year-old. Do you ever do anything like in a communication or an exchange with your wife or your lover, and your intentions was to help her see the error of her ways, to restore the relationship or to restore the marriage? And then after that was over, you drive away thinking, what the hell did I just do? I made it 10 times worse. This is why I say, whenever you're trying to restore your relationship, time is only on your side if you put it there. Your clock is ticking so fast and time is only on your side if you put it there. Well, Denver, what do you mean? What do you mean if the clock is ticking so fast? Sorry, I got to turn my AC off in here. I'm freezing. What I mean by that is that sometimes we're often too close to our situation to see our situation. If your lover has confirmation bias, you are one bad decision away from a fight blowing up and you guys get divorced or separated forever. She ends up with somebody else and it's never going to be restored. Now, if she hasn't went down the aisle in a wedding with somebody else, I still say there's a possibility that we might can turn the relationship around. We might can restore the marriage. We do it all the time. I get men all the time that their wives are moved in with another man, but she's not remarried yet. And we can capitalize on that affair partner and actually use him as a tool to push her back into the relationship psychologically, emotionally, and even sometimes financially. The way that we figure out if we can do that for you is to get you on a strategy session call with us if that's something that you need. And I'll tell you how to do that at the end of this video. But aligning our actions with immaturity, aligning our actions with our feelings instead of our goals. How do we do that? Well, we chase, we beg, we plead, we go after her. Have you ever posted a Facebook post that maybe was something you just wanted her to see the post, but it's backfiring on you? Maybe you've ran to Jesus during this separation, during this breakup, during a divorce filing. Almost always, if there's any religiosity or spirituality involved, the man will run to Jesus and the woman will run from Jesus. The reason that this happens a lot of times is she resents your newfound Christianity. She resents your religiosity. She resents your code of conduct and your new ethics. And now you are walking the moral high ground. Everything in you says, well, this is what I should show her. I should show her that I've changed. I should show her that I'm becoming a man of God, that I'm walking in all these different areas to get my shit together, to improve my life, to be the best version that I possibly could be for her. But you're doing it the opposite of how you should do it. There's nothing wrong with doing all of that, but right now it's backfiring. How do you know if it's backfiring? She's going to say stuff like, well, you're going to make a really good husband for a new wife. You're going to make a really good man for a new girlfriend. I see the changes that you're making. You're going to be great for the next partner. That means that the changes, the way that you're going about them, the way you're psychologically presenting yourself to her is causing her to resent the changes because you're doing them in the wrong order. So right now, if you're on Facebook and you're posting Bible scriptures and Bible verse, or, a real man leads his family, or anything like you're posting something like, if you really love somebody, you do this, blah, blah, blah for life. You're thinking she's going to read those things and just magically want to come back into the relationship. And guess what? All that is what I call the 3 C's. It's making her feel condemned. It's making her feel criticized, and it's making her feel like you're complaining and you're literally doing it publicly, shining a social media negative light on her. This is another reason that she has an enemy of the marriage that she recruits to help enable her to exit the relationship. You're over here with love, with humility, with good intentions, but in reality, you're walking in immaturity because you don't know what else the hell to do. And I completely get that because I was in your shoes. I made those same mistakes. So when you're making all of these immature, stupid mistakes where you're aligning your actions with your feelings, the only thing that you need to do is pivot, do something different to create curiosity. But most importantly, you want to align your actions with your goals. What is the goal? You want to attract your lover back. You want the mother of your children, the love of your life, your soulmate. Your heart is grieving. Some of you are even having thoughts of suicide because this is the worst freaking thing you've ever been through in your life because it hurts so bad. Guess how I know that? Guess how I know that? So what do? What's the first thing that you can do to start the process of attracting her back? Step number 1, stop complaining, stop condemning, stop whining, and stop pressuring. Whatever, what are you talking about? Well, first of all, you're doing that. You've been doing that. Maybe you've watched some of my videos and you've backed off of that just a little bit. And a lot of people will tell me sometimes when I get on a call with a man on a strategy session, they'll be like, well, you told me to do this and this and this. You know what? For 90% of you watching this, step number 1 is enough to get your relationship back on track. Step number 1 is enough to get your relationship back on track. But if your wife or your lover has strong confirmation bias, meaning she's had bias against you or the relationship for 3 or more months, this is not going to be enough. It's not going to be enough. It takes 7 weeks in order for confirmation bias to dissipate on a brain scan. So what do I mean by this? About 4 years ago from the date that I recorded this video, we now know that the brain biologically changes, that we have neuroplasticity. We can grow new brain cells. A few years ago, just about 4 or 5 years ago, I was taught in college when I majored in psychology that the brain couldn't change. That was the opposite of what I was told. But as long as I've been doing this in over a decade now, I always knew that it could. Science has finally proven that. So why am I talking about this? Because in order to lead a woman out of confirmation bias, you have to have consistent new relationship histories where you are doing every single thing right, the correct way. You are aligning your actions with your goals, meaning that you're not doing anything based on your feelings. You're doing everything based on the goal to restore the marriage. And you're doing this with enough new relationship histories over an amount of time that her new thought patterns, the psychological thought patterns, are reran long enough that you're changing her mind from running the neural pathway of confirmation bias, where she's wanting to exit the relationship. You get her firing new synapses where you're showing her new relationship histories of your trustworthy behavior, because you've decided to walk in the masculine and start aligning your actions with your goals, which you're always aligning the actions with the goals to restore the marriage. Well, Denver, I don't know how to do that. That's why we have a program at denvergriffin.com called DivorceStoppers. We walk you through this step by step every single week for 7 weeks. We make sure that you have coaching along the way if you need it, to make sure that you're landing every step, that you never have a loss during the 7 weeks that's going to put you back before you started. For a lot of you, you've tried some things and it's worked, right? You've moved the needle forward 4 steps. And then all of a sudden you screwed something up and you took 7 steps back. This is the reason that divorces in all continents of the world, divorces happen and women get remarried to another man. And then we survey her 22 months later and she says, "Oh, I regret getting a divorce." It's too late. She's already married, a new household, financially secured, and maybe even has children with the new man. But in some surveys, up to 73% of women that were in their second marriage, 22 months into the marriage, say they wish they were still married to their ex-husband. So here's what I mean by this. A lot of you watching this, if your wife has confirmation bias or your lover has confirmation bias, you're not supposed to get a divorce. But guess what? If she has confirmation bias and you don't know how to psychologically lead her out of the confirmation bias, change the psychology of her thoughts, by you aligning your actions with your goals, meaning you're doing everything right long enough that her new psychological thoughts become biological. Denver, what do you talk about biological being all scientific? Here's what I'm talking about, all scientific. If your wife or your lover has confirmation bias, the relationship will not be restored unless she changes. So for a lot of you out there right now, you're doing all these things to change yourself. And guess what? That's needed. But if she doesn't change at the same time you're changing, you will get a divorce or the relationship will end, most likely, if she has confirmation bias. Ask me how I know that. I'm in my second marriage. This is how I know it. Okay, so listen to me. You constantly hear me in my videos say you just got to be coachable, but you also hear me say time is only on your side if you put it there. Right now, the month that we're in, when I'm recording this video, this is the second highest divorce month of the year. If you're heading toward divorce, stop being naive and believing her, gaslighting you, saying, "Oh, it's okay. Because she's a nice person, she's not going to be honest with you. Another word for that is gaslighting. Watch her actions, not her words. A really nice woman that is exiting the relationship will look you in the eye and lie to your face because she doesn't want to hurt your feelings. Align your actions with your goals. The first action that you could align with your goals is take off all the pressure, no complaining, no condemning, no criticizing. That's verbal. That's rolling your eyes like, no, none of that. No pressure. Stop trying to talk about the relationship. Stop trying to get her to work on the marriage. All that's doing is backfiring. It's aligning your goals with your selfish feelings. It's telling her, I don't care that you want to exit the relationship. I want us to stay together. Guess what? You're wanting us to stay together and trying to convey that to her is the reason that you're getting separated. Stop doing that bullshit. It's killing the relationship. Step number 2, agree with almost everything that she says and then put a good name on it. Now, just for the sake of confusion, I am not saying agree to something that's going to impact you detrimentally or harm you. So for example, if your wife says, I'd like you to sign this divorce decree. I want you to give me 100% equity in the home. I want spousal support and full custody of the kids with a crap ton of child support to enable me to go find another man, and he and I are going to go out to dinner and I'm going to pay for it. That is stupid, and that is the opposite of aligning your actions with your goals. But what I am telling you is when she's expressing her negative feelings about anything, for her, that's her truth. For her, that's her truth. Agree with the feelings. Now, that's not enough. So please don't ever tell anybody, well, Denver told me just to say, you're right, you're right. I would never tell you to just sit around saying, you're right, I agree, you're right, I agree. That's not what I'm saying right now. I'm saying, say, oh yeah, I agree with your negative feelings. You think I'm a horse's ass. How do you agree with that statement? You know what? Looking back on things, I can see I have been and probably still am the biggest horse's ass on the planet. And then explain why you agree with that. Explain to her why you think that, so you give specific examples. You know, I can see just how I just now talked to you. That was completely rude. So what you've done there by doing that is you've agreed with her negative feelings. Then you've put a good name on those feelings by explaining why you genuinely agree with the negative feelings. Now, a lot of other stuff though. So let me give you an example. Right now, she'll test you. So let's say you have kids. And if you don't have kids, you can apply this scenario to another place. So here's what I mean by this. Okay, so maybe right now she has a great idea that's her idea. You might think it's a shitty idea about your kids. And I'm not talking about custody. What I am talking about is maybe she thinks the kids should go to this camp in New York. Okay, if you're in the United States, maybe you're in Australia, she wants to fly them to New York to go to a camp. You're looking at it and you're like, you know, that's something I would never pick. It's not, that camp is not in line with my values. This is why I tell you, being Parent of the Year award when you're going through a separation or a potential divorce and you're trying to save the marriage, this is where it might be in the best interest during this season for you to show up as a shittier version of a parent than what you would have before, because you want to align your actions with your goals to restore the marriage or the relationship. So give her some grace and let her have some wins and that kind of stuff that nobody's going to die over. If the kids are going to survive it, then agree to it. Because the more you're agreeing, you're ruining her story that he's a miserable person that argues about everything. This is step number 2. Step number 3, act like you're so freaking happy that you're on top of the world. Women do not leave forever and they do not divorce genuinely happy men. This is why you hear me say in the videos, I am happy, I am happy, I am happy. Guess what? I actually wasn't necessarily this happy when I started recording this video because my heart burns for marriage restoration. We're in the second divorce month, the highest divorce month of the year. It grieves my soul for those of you that are about to go through what I went through. I can help you prevent that. That's why I'm doing these videos. That's why we have a program called DivorceStoppers. If you need more help than what the YouTube videos are on there, if you know she has confirmation bias, hit your ass on a strategy session call with us and let's figure out how to restore the marriage, restore the relationship. One of the ways that you can take perfectly happy to the next level is practice it. You want to change your entire life in one day? I'm going to give you an action step right now that if you'll do this today, tomorrow, or today, whenever you're watching this video, go to work, wherever you're going, just get yourself out in the open with other people. If you're piled up on the couch eating Cheetos because you're depressed, get your fat ass off the couch and get up and align your actions with your goals. That's going to ensure the relationship ends. Ask me how I know. I was there. I was the fat ass piled up on the couch because I was depressed. That's going to give you more depression. That's going to give you more separation. And that's going to ensure the relationship is not going to be restored. Get up off the couch. But here's what I was about to tell you to do. Everywhere you go, whether it's your work or maybe you work from home, maybe you're retired and you don't work. Go to Walmart, go to the mall, go to wherever, but just get around other people. And when you do that, practice smiling. Practice smiling. I do this about once a month with my son. I teach him the psychology of a smile, and I also do it because I need to be served with that. I like to be filled up. So here's what I mean by this. You can implement the law of reciprocity so everyone around you, you can get them serving you and putting good energy into you, which will fill you to the brink. That way, when you see your long-term relationship lover or your wife again, it's just going to be organically natural. Well, Denver, what is it I'm supposed to do? Get to the point. Okay, that's what I'm doing. Smile. Walk around with a shit-eating grin on your face all freaking day. If you meet somebody on the road, you're passing them on the sidewalk, you're passing them at work, smile. And they 100%, first they might be like, is he smiling at me? But they're always going to smile back. You do this for about 30 minutes, it will literally, you don't need to go and get depression medication a lot of times if you'll do what I'm telling you. Now, if you have a medical condition and it's all that, I'm not a doctor and I don't claim to be, so don't take any medical advice from me here. But I can tell you that even if today, if I'm a little bit down or in a funk, you know what I do? I have my friend print off some flyers to invite people to like the spiritual retreat, like a religious church type thing. And I will literally get on my golf cart with my son and I drive around our little community where we live here. We've got a couple thousand people here. And I will just make a point to smile at everybody, like the biggest freaking smile. And I can literally be in a bad mood when I walk out the door. But guess what? Within 30 minutes of doing that, smiling and giving these little flyers to everybody, like I am on freaking cloud nine when I get back. When I get back, I am literally emotionally filled up with joy in my soul to the point that it's exuding over with my wife. Like it literally lands on her. And if you'll do this, this is an action step that's aligning your actions with your goals to restore your marriage. I'm not just telling you this to get you to feel better. Your lover, your wife, your long-term relationship lover, she will see the joy that's in you and it will ruin the story that she's telling herself in confirmation bias about you and or the relationship. If you ruin that story consistently for 7 weeks, bam, back together, soulmates. Step number 4, you're not probably going to want to hear this one, and it's the first time I've ever let this out on a YouTube video, but I am going to tell you this works. Date other women. Make her jealous. I'm going to tell you something. If you right now are in a separation where maybe your wife or your lover doesn't have strong confirmation bias, if she thinks somebody else has an interest in you, this is going to be something that usually will get her very re-interested in you really fast. Well, I love you, but I'm not in love with you. Guess what? If another woman is in the picture, it's going to be amazing how she remembers the love that she was in with you. How will you know she's still in love with you? See if she's jealous. Make her think that you're going out on a date with another woman. Actually get in your car and go out on a date with another. Well, Denver, I can't do that. I'm a Christian. I don't want to commit adultery. I didn't say go have sexual intimacy with another woman. I said go to Starbucks or Kangaroo Jack's and have a cup of coffee with another woman. And guess what? It needs to be a woman that's at least on the same level as your lover. You don't want to go down 3 grades. You want to go on the same level. Now, if your wife has confirmation bias, this also will work. And it could put you guys back in the same household. But guess what? If you don't do all the other stuff needed to get rid of the confirmation bias, more than likely you'll end up separated again. Put in the comments if you've already been separated 2 or 3 times and now this is the next time and it looks like this might be the last time because it's way more severe. It's way more serious. But when you play hard to get, when you back up, see right now, she's backed up. She took 5 steps away from the relationship and you've ran, like you've tripping over yourself to go back to her. And that's pushing her further. Back up, distance yourself, maybe go date another woman, go to Starbucks with a pretty gal, and all of a sudden, she's going to start coming back your way. This will almost always work, but I will tell you this. If confirmation bias does exist, it might get you guys back in the same household, but it's not going to last. So Denver, what do I do if that's the case? The only way that I know of to get rid of confirmation bias, and if you're trying to do that very fast, it literally takes 7 weeks of new thought patterns for her that you can lead her in by you doing things differently and running her story for 7 weeks, which I show you how to do that at denvergriffin.com. I have a free masterclass that you can register for and go through that. And that might be exactly what you need at denvergriffin.com to get rid of the confirmation bias. After you go through that masterclass, if you feel like you need help doing those steps, we have a 7-week program called the DivorceStoppers program, where not only do we teach you how to get rid of the confirmation bias, how to rebuild, how to restore the relationship or the marriage, we also stick with you as you're walking that walk. Maybe you have questions. That means that you have live coaching 2 times a week to support you as you're taking those steps to make sure that you land every single week, because you've got to land every single week for the duration and the time that it takes for confirmation bias to biologically change. Here's what I mean by that. If you think a new thought, or you lead your wife to think new thoughts, or your lover to think new thoughts about the relationship, it takes 7 weeks of new thoughts for the confirmation bias that we could see on an MRI. So we could put her under a brain scan, ask her questions about you and or the relationship, and we can see the neural bias against you and or the marriage. It'll look like the Los Angeles freeway at around LAX during rush hour. It lights up like a Christmas tree. So it's a biological. We can physically see it. So we lead her psychologically to new thought patterns. Pattern interrupts, new relationship histories, curiosity, which is attraction. So Denver, why are you rubbing your forehead? Because we're changing the synapses to a different part of the brain and firing different regions of the brain by creating a different environment and ruin her story. And we do that over the period of 7 weeks, because 7 weeks is how long it takes to see a biological change. Meaning 7 weeks later, we can do a brain scan and we see that freeway that looked like rush hour at Los Angeles. It's dissipated. It's no longer a bright pattern on the brain scan. It's turned into a gravel road that's grown up. And if your wife has confirmation bias, if you don't do that, the odds are you are heading for permanent separation or divorce. This is what I mean when I say time is only on your side. If you put it there, there's actually a mathematical equation to getting rid of confirmation bias, and we figured that out. Step number 5, the last thing that I'm going to cover here with you, is what's something else that you can do. Do everything that she wants to do perfectly and happily her way. Again, don't agree to something that's going to adversely or financially impact you negatively, because that's going to cause her to lose respect for you. But I'm talking about all of the shit that you've been argumentative over for most of the relationship, or at least the latter part of the relationship, when you become a miserable dude and now you're deciding to get it back together because you want to save the relationship. One of the ways that you can do that is stop arguing. Just if she wants the kids to go to the church camp in New York and you think, oh, like it's satanic, ask yourself, are they going to die? If she wants to pull your kids out, your son out of soccer or your daughter out of soccer, and you're like, they've been in it for 9 years, okay, are they going to be a professional soccer player? Is that what they're going to, or is it something that you just prefer, that maybe this is a season where you need to let it go and just be cool with it? Stop being so hell-bent on having everything your way. So I get where you're coming from. For a lot of you, though, where a lot of that stems from is your whole life you've been lied to since you were a child, that you've made these inner vows. My kids are not going to be raised like, I was, and, I'm not going to run my marriage, and you've become controlling. She's even told you, you're controlling. I feel smothered. I need to get away so I can be me, so I can find myself, so I can breathe. What's happened? Listen, she's spot on. You just don't see it because you're too close to your situation to see your situation. But here's what often leads a woman to feel oppressed, where she feels condemned. She feels like there's an elephant on her chest because your whole life, with good intentions, with love, and maybe even humility, you have always felt responsible for your lover. You felt responsible for your wife. You felt responsible for your kids. Well, Denver, I am responsible for them. No, you're not. When you feel responsible for another human being, they will always feel controlled. They will always feel pressured. And it is you taking your hands and your feet and shoving them out the door. You don't ever want to show up feeling responsible for anyone that you love, because it's going to put pressure on them. It's going to make them feel condemned. Well, Denver, how do I do that? I love them. I think I'm responsible. No. I'm going to tell you right now how to show up as a safe and connected masculine man with the right kind of masculine leadership. Change your thinking from I'm responsible for my wife, I'm responsible for my children. Change your thinking. Let me tell you a story about responsibility. When my middle son was 3 years old, I was watching a 4th of July parade with my kids. And I was sitting on, like when the parades go down the street, at least in the United States. I used to live in the United States, or as we say here where I live now, Estados Unidos. But when I lived in the United States, they have Independence Day parades there. And it was just like all these different cars and floats going by. Long story short, my son was standing on the curb of the road where the floats were going to go by. And he was standing right like where a drain is, like, the city drain goes down. And I could tell he was getting ready to jump. And it was a fairly, it was a good little drop off. He was wearing shorts and I knew his knees were just going to get skin all up. Whenever I looked at him and saw he was about to jump, I maintained eye contact with him and he looked me right in the eye. I said, stop. And he looked me right back in the eye and said, no. And he jumped. And guess what? His knees got skinned all to hell. This is what I'm talking about. At 3 years old, he had the mental capacity to make a decision to be responsible for himself because he has the right to be. I thought I was responsible for keeping him from getting his knees skinned. And praise God in heaven that one day I woke up and I realized that me keeping him from getting his knees skinned meant that I was raising a kid. I didn't want to raise a kid. I wanted to raise a man that just so happened to be a child or a kid while he was in my care. So how did I make the change? I started allowing him to fall. I started allowing him to skin his knees to get scraped. How did I make this paradigm shift? Because I started saying I'm not responsible for him. I'm not responsible for my wife. But what are my responsibilities to him? What are my responsibilities to my wife? What are my responsibilities to my lover? Your responsibilities to your lover is give her the right to be wrong. Give her the right to fail, fall, and fuck up. Give her the right to skin her knees. For a lot of you right now, let me ask you a question. I want you to think, and I want you to put this in the comments, but I want you to really think about this before you do this. So here's what I'm saying. Can you think about your relationship with your lover or your wife? And just think about the last couple of years. Does your wife respond like an immature 3-year-old? You think about your arguments and your disagreements and you're trying to get her to see your point, and she responds very immature, like a 3-year-old. If she does, there's some ownership that you get to take in her showing up like that in your leadership. If you have led her in a marriage where you felt responsible for her, you've kept her from becoming a woman. And so you're married to a girl. And a girl will never help her husband because she doesn't have the maturity to do so. Let me tell you how to picture this. Think of your wife and your children as your garden that God has blessed you with an opportunity to tend to. If you feel responsible for your garden, those flowers will never bloom. How many of you are married to a woman that's a plant and you've never seen the color of her flower because it's never blossomed? And now she's telling you, I need to be me. I need to go find me. Because by you feeling responsible for her, you have smothered and stifled her. And she's never, especially if you got married young, she never learned how to become a woman because you didn't give her the permission. So when I tell you, do everything happily her way, let her make mistakes. Let her make stupid mistakes in your opinion. Guess why? If it is a stupid mistake, it's to everyone's benefit to allow her to make it, because that's how she will become a woman. You have removed her right to become a woman by smothering her, by showing up responsible for her. And so you're still married to a girl. It's one of the reasons that you're frustrated. So you allow this beautiful woman this beautiful creation of God. You allow her to become a woman for the first time in her life. Right now, she is seeking to exit the relationship so she can become that woman. She's desperate to be who she's destined and anointed to be, that you have unintentionally, with good intentions and a good heart, thinking you were protecting her, but at the end of the day, you showing up responsible for her has harmed her, it's harmed your children, and it's harmed your marriage. If you want the marriage restored, you've got to think, what are my responsibilities to her? Your responsibilities are to let her fall. You're always going to be the man that's there, positive, polite, and playful, with your hand out to help her back up. These are action steps that you can start incorporating right away to start the process of reconciling with your long-term relationship lover or restoring your marriage. If you need more help, I urge you to go through the free masterclass. And if you need more, book a call. I will probably do the call with you. DenverGriffin.com. This is Divorce Month. Go do the masterclass. We're not even charging for it right now, and we only have a few seats left for the next masterclass. DenverGriffin.com. Prayers for your marriage, but faith without works is dead. Get off your ass and take action. With love. Bye.